Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor. I'm joined today by my classmates, Catherine, Cherish, William, and Leslie. And today we have some great information for you about the characteristics of culture, the elements of culture, and why those are important. We're also going to talk about Gannon's cultural metaphors and how those differ from Hofstede's dimensions. And then lastly, we're going to talk about some very important secondary sources that companies can use and consult from to learn more about other cultures. So our first question is for William. William, what are the four characteristics of culture that global marketers must recognize?
So the first of these four categories of culture that so important for these international organizations to be aware of and to continuously improve is that it needs to be understood that culture is learned. It's not necessarily an easy thing to change as you're kind of growing up and developing. As you get older, you just kind of learn these things through, it could be family, school, your friends, who you surround yourself with. So that is really the first thing, is understanding that, depending on where someone comes from, what their background is, that's really, what makes up their culture. And that leads kind of into the second point, is that you can't really change culture. After you hit a certain point in development and understanding that there no one's really going to grow up one way, and then by the time down the road, their culture is not really going to change their beliefs and their moral values. And that goes into the third, is that as companies continuously just grow internationally and we have larger global supply chains, it should be understood that you need to be accepting of all cultures, despite any personal beliefs or anything you may not agree with or feel the same. You have to treat everyone the same in international business. And that kind of leads into the fourth topic, is, again, as you expand globally, you really need to do your research in any areas that you may be operating in internationally. You need to know the demographics, what's important to those people, what do they value, and those kind of things. So again, it just all ties into, as companies continue to grow and go, overseas and whatnot, it's very important to understand the cultures and the belief systems of those that are involved. So,
Thanks,
thank you.
William. That's a lot of good information about modern international businesses. A lot of relevant concepts there. So next, Leslie, can you tell us about the four elements of culture, and then just briefly indicate why those are important when marketing products and services internationally?
Yeah, so there are many elements of culture, but the four main elements include symbols, language, norms, and value. Symbols are used to stand for something or is a type of communication that is nonverbal, and some symbols may be misunderstood or even be hostile. And this can affect the way a product is seen and can cause some kind of controversy. The second element includes language, which can often be misleading by a simple use of a word. A word in English may have a different meaning in another country. And differences in language can be difficult to communicate, which communication is very important in business because of not having the same language. And this can affect how people in business um, do do the trading or whatever it is that they're doing because of the language barrier. Another element of culture are norms, and norms actually has two types: informal and formal. And in business formal norms are considered very important because it involves laws and regulations. And informal norms are a little bit less important, but can still influence the way one behaves or acts. An example of this would be an interaction with another worker or a business partner. The last element is value. Value indicates the judgment of what is good or bad and what is desirable and what is not. This element is found in traditional societies or industrial cultures.
Thank you, Leslie. That is all really increasingly important as more and more products and services are marketed internationally. Next is a question for Catherine. Catherine, can you talk about how Gannon's cultural metaphors differ from how Hofstede uses culture to classify countries?
Yes. So Martin Gannon created cultural metaphors because he believed that learning about the do's and don'ts of a country's culture didn't really work well for company executives when doing business overseas. And so he thought it would be easier to understand through a mental image or a metaphor instead. And so Gannon's cultural metaphors help explain a country's culture in a magic way. So they're a representation of the values that most members of the culture identify with. So things like American French wine, German symphony, and British house are all examples of cultural metaphors. And they're used to explain the overall culture, but it doesn't really look at specific attitudes towards certain aspects of life. But they can be used to help people who don't live in that country understand the general culture. And Gannon's cultural metaphors differ from Hofstede's dimensions because it looks at the bigger picture instead of measuring cultural dimensions. Hofstede breaks the culture of the country down into 5 different dimensions in order to see how they rank against each other. But if someone wanted a quick and easy way to get an idea of a country's culture, then a cultural metaphor from Gannon would help them understand than explaining Hofstede's dimensions.
Thank you, Catherine. And the last question is for Cherish. Cherish, can you talk about some important secondary sources that companies can use to consult in order to learn more about the cultures in other countries?
Yeah, so secondary sources that companies can consult with to learn about culture in other countries are the Department of Commerce Country Commercial Guides, also known as the CCGs, country reports from the Economist Intelligence Unit, and the Price Waterhouse Coopers, or the PwC. Country reports provide in-depth background information on economic competitiveness for different countries, allowing you to view specific research on the industries in different countries. The research given in reports of these secondary sources could be airport services, agricultural products, and the apparel industry. The Trade Promotion Coordinating Committee, also known as the TPCC, originally recommended the establishment of the CCGs so that all the documents that were being reported and prepared could all be in one location for the United States business community to use. The CCGs are prepared each year by the embassies with the help of several United States government agencies. These reports can show the commercial environments, the political, and market analysis. Based out of London, England, the reports released by the Economic Intelligence Unit serves knowledge for nearly 190 countries. According to the IEU website, PwC offers advice to businesses about auditing, accounting, taxation, strategy management, and the human resource consulting services. It operates out of 157 countries, and it's the world's largest professional firm. Secondary sources are important because they interpret and explain the meaning of information in the primary sources. Secondary sources provide information about what others think about a company or the industry.
Thank you, Cherish, and thank you all for listening to our video today. We are a part of the BBA Logistics and Supply Chain Management program at Georgia Highlands College, and we're making this video for Dr. O's International Business Environment course. So thank you all for listening, and we appreciate your time.